All right, so this is our yearly video about the term rules for Lift School of Music. This is November 2025. Having these policies makes sure that piano is predictable and fun for everybody. Going over them each term might feel like a lot, but I try to vary it up in the ways, like having the quiz or having the picture book you look at, and having this video. I think different ways speak to different people differently, and having going over it each time might feel like a lot, but it's important to make sure that everybody's already on the same page all the time. A good routine with practice, listening to the CD, watching your child's lesson, and reading the newsletter will help you have a wonderful upcoming term. If you ever have any questions, you can email. I prefer texting or calling, but obviously I prefer texting. You can always text at any time. It's my work phone. I keep it off when I'm at school. I keep it off when I'm studying. So really feel free to text anytime. Don't worry about the time difference. Don't worry if you're awake at a time. That would be a weird time no matter where we were. Just text anytime and ask any questions, and I'll answer when I'm able to. So there's many advantages to giving your child a piano education. There's been studies showing that it improves spelling, reading, math scores, increases brain activity, increases auditory processing, and actually raises IQ. Additionally, piano is something that your child will be able to do throughout their entire lifetime, which makes it a pretty cool activity. All families must pay per term. The terms are November through February, March through June, and July through October. There are 8 lessons each term. The lesson dates are on Facebook when I upload them. I had a little problem with Facebook a couple times where it was only showing people part of the picture, but I think I've mitigated this. And also I remind people to make sure to click on the whole image in case it doesn't show the whole thing. It's on the registration link, which you are probably on. That's how you got to this video. And in your confirmation letter. So please make sure that you receive your confirmation letter. Sometimes that's an issue just where it gets lost in people's inbox, or maybe it's sent to spam. If you don't receive a confirmation letter within a week or so of registering, please let me know. Even if you think, well, I already know what I'm supposed to pay, or I already paid, and I know when my lesson is, it's really nice to have. I've had a number of times where people have thought their lessons were at one time, and one family made a comment about me running late when I was 1 minute behind, and it was because they actually thought their lesson started 10 minutes earlier than it did. Another time a family thought that they had paid for 30-minute lessons and they had only paid for 21-minute lessons. In the confirmation letter, it contains all that information. It also tells you where to pay, how much to pay, when it's due, the late fee, when your lessons are, how long they are, when the lesson, like what dates the lessons are. It says all this important stuff. So even if you think, well, I already know all that, make sure you know where your confirmation letter is, because it's just an important thing to have. Tuition is due on or before the first lesson of each term. There's a $25 late fee for tuition paid 1 to 13 days after the date, a $50 for 2 weeks to 30 days, and after 30 days, lessons will no longer be given, and until tuition plus a $100 late fee is paid. Since raising the late fees, people have been really great about paying lessons on time. Just keep in mind that it is due before on the first lesson of each term. I mean, you can think about it like this. If you were at the grocery store, you wouldn't take the groceries home and then pay for them. So just make sure that it gets paid by then, and the cost and all that information will be in your confirmation letter. Beginning in 2026, the pricing has changed to absorb the yearly surcharge. This was something we first talked about in March last year, so I think I've given people a fair heads up. You had to check a box that said you understood it the last couple registrations. So starting in January 2026, the tuition will be $255 for Book 1 students, which is a 30-minute lesson. For students in Book 2 and 3, the cost will be $322.50. That's for 45 minutes. For students in Book 4 and 5, the cost is $390. That's for 1 hour. And then I have an option for an 80-minute lesson for advanced high school students. That's $515. I also have options for young students, 7-minute lessons for $75, 14-minute lessons for $135, and 21-minute lessons for $195. Those are for young students. For example, the 7-minute lessons are for 1, 2, and 3-year-olds. So these rates reflect the absorption of the surcharge that starts on January 1st, 2026. Since the new pricing does not begin until January 1st, 2026, and I really try to use fairness in my business, and the November through March term is split between 2025 that doesn't have the new rate and 2026 that does have the new rate. I'm doing a one-time rate. So this rate is only for this November through March 2025-2026 term. And those prices are $67.50 for 7-minute lessons, $127 for 50 cents for 14, $187.50 for 21-minute, $247.50 for 30-minute lessons, $322.50 for 45-minute lessons, $382.50 for 1-hour lessons, and $507.50 for 80-minute lessons. So this one-time rate charges the 2025 rate for November and December, and the 2026 and onward rate for January and February. So I just try to do that in order to be fair, because otherwise, technically, the rate doesn't go into effect in January, and you would have been paying the 2026 rate in November and December. So if you have any questions about this, please let me know. I'm hoping that this was the fairest way to do this, and I'm hoping that it's not going to throw too many people off, and that I won't get a bunch of texts when March tuition comes saying, why is it $7.50 more this term? It's because I tried to do it as fair as possible and charge you the old rate for the first 2 months and the new rate for the second 2 months. Please let me know if that doesn't make sense to you, or if you have any questions about that. I'm more than happy to explain or to go over it again. I would way rather explain and have people understand now than have people be confused or think, something happened wrong in March. So to repeat one more time, there's a new pricing that goes into effect January 1st, 2026. I used to have a yearly surcharge. The last few years, people have had a lot of questions about it and not wanted to pay it. So instead of having it every year, I absorbed it into the tuition rates. And since this term, part of it takes place in 2025 and part takes place in 2026, I did the math, and you're paying the old rate for November and December and the new rate for January and February, which leads to a one-time rate. The regular rate is listed in the term letter, and the one-time rate is listed in the term letter. That whole paragraph about the one-time rate will be deleted after this term, and only the paragraph before it will remain about the new pricing. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. If you miss a lesson, you will be refunded to up to 3 lessons per year in the form of a discount on the next payment. Lessons canceled by the parent may not be reinstated should plans change. No-shows, whereas instances where I receive no warning, are not eligible for prorates. I think that's a fairly generous policy. If you really think about it, it leads to me having up to 3 weeks of unpaid work for the year. This has caused some issues in the past. It might be something that we reinvestigate at some point, but at this time I am not making any changes to it. I do want to add, though, that you can only receive prorates on the next term. Even if you let me know ahead of time that you're missing a lesson, I can't prorate the current term. And this is actually because there have been times in the past where I've then had to cancel. Like if you tell me, for example, I'm going to miss February 3rd, and then I end up canceling February 3rd anyway, it gets kind of complicated as to whether I should give you a prorate or let you have that lesson. So if you let me know you're missing a lesson, you get the next term will be what can be prorated. Paying per term allows your child to attend a number of free events in the studio each year. It's up to you to read the newsletter and contact me about any events your child is interested in. We sometimes offer classes, contests, workshops, recitals, and competitions. Most are free, but a few cost extra. I do not like wasting lesson time discussing each event, so I try to include as much as possible about each event in the newsletter. The enrollment fee is $50. A regular as a regular time at the piano is absolutely imperative for progress. Each student who misses 2 or more months will be treated as a new student and have to pay the enrollment fee of $50. At this time, I am not accepting new students or re-enrolling students who have taken time off. This may change in the future. Actually, I haven't taken new students in 8 years, other than a few exceptions and siblings. But I have almost over a half dozen like seniors leaving this year, so there may be a chance that I do accept new students at some point in the future. I'm not yet asking people to give out my number, but if you know of people who might be interested, let me know, and I can let you know if this ends up happening or not. I had a lot of seniors this year, which is really cool. Lesson etiquette. Parents and guardians must attend all lessons with their child. Exceptions can be made for extreme circumstances. Parents are welcome to take notes, videos, and other recordings in order to best help their child practice. During lessons, it is the parent's place to take notes or videos and ask questions directly to the teacher. If a parent directs their child during a lesson, it can result in confusion. This also applies to virtual lessons, where it's extra important that the parent follows my directions and participates, helping the child when asked. It is my responsibility to teach you and your child, and your responsibility to encourage them to love the piano. I go over many things very quickly, and it is impossible for me to sum up 30 minutes of work in 10 to 15 seconds at the end of a lesson. It's hard. It's always been hard for parents, virtual or in person, to not direct their child during a lesson. If I want you to do something, I will say, oh, and mom or dad can point to a D for you, or I'll say directly to you, hey, you can help with this. But if you're constantly pointing to the correct note, or whispering, hold it for 2, or humming even, or tapping, any little thing that can prompt your child, I'm not seeing what your child can do, I'm seeing what you can do. And I hope you do know what's going on, but it's really important for me to be able to see what your child can do. And additionally, there's a lot of times when it feels comfortable to save your child from this discomfort and panic of, oh, what is a D? But what is going to help your child neurologically strengthen finding the correct note or playing the right rhythm is going to be them doing it, and them having that second of panic and then figuring it out and working through it, and not being saved by you pointing or you helping or you prompting in some way. I know that's really hard, and it's hard for the parent to kind of sit with that discomfort of allowing their child to struggle, but it's valuable and it's important. So try really hard to pay attention and stay engaged without prompting. If a parent is absent from the child's lesson altogether, the parent is asked to let me know ahead of time. Provide me with the information of the adult with them, whether it's a babysitter or a grandparent. It seems, oh, but lessons go so smoothly, we never have problems. And then that'll be the time that either there's a technology issue or a kid gets sick 5 minutes before a lesson or anything like that happens. And if I don't know how to get in contact with the babysitter and the babysitter doesn't know how to get in contact with me, it leads to a frustrating situation. As well as let me know how the child practiced and what they practiced during the week. This is important because if a child is with someone like a sitter, they might be extra excitable, and I might not know, hey, can they not play their song because they didn't practice? Or, hey, can they not play their song because they're really excited about this? So just let me know what happened during the week. Additionally, the last 2 minutes of the lesson will be devoted to me texting the parent and letting them know how the child did. So if I wait till the end of the day, if I don't end the lesson 1 or 2 minutes early, I'll forget. So in the instance where a parent isn't there, I take the last couple minutes of the lesson to let the parent know how they did. That way I don't forget specifics. Students must have the camera of their device facing the piano at an angle where I can see their fingers and body. Technique and fingering makes up about 60% of piano learning. When the child is in book 2 or book 3 and up and they're learning to use the pedal, this actually has to include me seeing the pedal. When your child gets there, we discuss that. If you're late to a lesson, I wait by the computer, like with the Zoom open, or I try to call a second time for 5 minutes. Then I might leave the Zoom unattended while I, run to do laundry or something like that. If you're up to 15 minutes late and you still want to have the lesson, text me and I'll come back to the teaching area. Basically, if you are more than 5 minutes late, I won't keep trying to call you. I won't keep sending you the Zoom code or harassing you. But if you do want to still have a lesson and you're up to 15 minutes late, just let me know. And I'll come back to trying to call you or come back to the Zoom. Due to circumstances beyond my control, I might be up to 15 minutes late. If I'm later than 15 minutes late to a regularly scheduled lesson, you can choose, do you want to receive this lesson? You'll still get the same length lesson. I'll just, run late to the next lesson. You can choose, would you like a prorate? It will not count as one of your 3 yearly prorates. Or would you like to have a lesson? So if you have somewhere you absolutely have to be and you can't run late, then just let me know and you can either receive a shorter lesson or you can receive the prorate. Sometimes it happens because, for example, I teach 35 lessons on Sundays, and last week I had no cancels, which was super cool. But if I run 1 minute, something happens with somebody's Zoom and we're 1 minute late to the first lesson, and then something happens and I'm 2 minutes late to the next lesson, you can easily see how that might end up with me being 15 minutes late to a lesson. So that, things do happen. I prefer people don't text when I'm 1 or 2 minutes late and ask, because that's, just a distraction, but you can always text and ask, for an estimate if I'm running behind. And I try to let people know if I'm more than 5 or 10 minutes behind. I'll let people know ahead. There are to be no distractions during lessons. If your child is in an environment in which they cannot learn, they will not receive a lesson. This is especially true for virtual lessons, so please be constantly vigilant that your child is in an atmosphere which is conducive for learning. They're already, working extra hard to hear and focus. And I think it's, at first, people had an easier time with virtual lessons, recognizing that it was important to stay quiet. And actually, at the beginning of the pandemic, lessons, people were really good about keeping the area really quiet. And like anything, I think it's gotten back to the point it was at with in-person lessons, where sometimes people forget to turn the TV off, or there's siblings running around, or there are pets actively in the way distracting. So just do your absolute best to make sure there's no music on in the background. Make sure people are being quiet. Make sure people aren't vacuuming near the piano during lesson. Just do what you can to mitigate those distractions, because you're paying for this time and you want your child to do the best that they can. But additionally, you want your child to feel respected. You want to have an environment in which your child feels as if you know how important it is for them to focus at the piano. And I realize it's hard, and there are things that are beyond your control, like a neighbor's dog barking, or someone ringing the doorbell. And there are definitely, you can't control for it all, but definitely make an effort to control for the things you can control for. Please have your child ready at their lesson time. This includes the child being properly dressed and fed, as well as in a state of mind that allows them to focus on their lesson. They must have, if they have like a notebook that they take notes in, or you have a notebook you take notes in, please have their Suzuki books ready, a pen and pencil. If they use a metronome, please have that ready with batteries in it, if you can. Again, I know things happen. But, show your child how important it is to be ready for whatever is happening. If your child is hungry, tired, sick, or unfocused for any other reason, I may choose to give them a short lesson or no lesson at all if it's clear they're unable to focus on the piano. Please take this part seriously. If your child is really overtired, or if they're sick, just cancel the lesson. It's better than having them struggle and be miserable and frustrated and not getting anything from it. It's okay to cancel once in a while. It happens. If one child is sick or unable to do a lesson, it is up to me as the teacher as to whether a sibling should use the extra time. Consistently having longer lessons to use up a sibling's time can be physically tiring and discouraging. If it seems advantageous to both parties, I might also play a music theory game away from the piano during unexpectedly long lesson. I put this paragraph in there because I had, for example, families who had, say, like a 4-year-old and a 10-year-old. And the 10-year-old was consistently missing lessons due to sports. And the 4-year-old was then expected to have 45-minute long lessons, which is a really long time for a 4-year-old. And, the 4-year-old was starting to not enjoy piano this was an example, not a real thing, but a younger child consistently doing a double or even triple what they're normally used to is a deterrent and makes piano kind of less exciting. So I added this paragraph just saying, it's up to me whether the child should have the full time, or maybe we can do a compromise and do a slightly shorter lesson, or we can play games for part of the lesson. But having that consistently having to go for much longer than you're used to is difficult. It's not something that comes up often, but as one knows, you sometimes have to have policies for things that are kind of more unique. Payment and questions also count as lesson time. Please have the payment ready. And this isn't as much of a problem anymore because almost all payments are virtual. But I think it goes to say, like, if you have questions about the payment or you have questions about anything, let me know ahead of time. Just send me a text and say, hey, at the end, can we talk about X or Y? And then I can budget time for that versus me being about to hang up and having a parent say, wait. How much do I owe? How do I pay? How do I practice with my child? Where's a D? Those kinds of things. That definitely was much more of an issue in person lessons, I'm not going to lie. Parents are asked to play the correct Suzuki CD at least 30 minutes on average a day. It used to be 2 hours. That was what was recommended when I was a child, and that works the best. However, families are so much busier now. Teachers have gone to like a more manageable goal of 30 minutes. 2 hours works best. If you can make it work with your life, if you can play it whenever you're in the car, play it as your child's falling asleep, play it when you guys are eating dinner, play it when you're eating lunch, play it while you're getting up and getting ready for the day. That's best. Having it at a really low volume where it's not getting in the way of conversation is also really helpful. It shouldn't be the focus. It should be background music, just all the time, on, all the time. This part is the responsibility of the parent alone. It is just how you show your child how important music is to you as a family. So you just put it on. You don't ask your child to put it on. You don't tell your child, oh, you need to remember this. No matter how old they are, you just put it on for them. You just have it on. I had a friend text me recently and say she heard when I went to sleepovers at her house, my mom would send me with my boombox so I could listen to the CD at night. And her mom would put it on for us. And she didn't take piano. And she actually texted me the other week and said she heard one of the songs from it was a Book 3 song on the radio. And she said it reminded her of me and our sleepovers so much. And like, that's how serious you can be, is, having your child listen to it, have another parent put it on for your child at their house. Children need to be seated correctly with a footrest at a good acoustic piano. Practicing on a keyboard or on a broken piano can be exceptionally frustrating for the child and will lead them end up feeling discouraged. Keyboards build bad habits, so even if you own one, please make sure your child is consistently practicing on the piano, not the keyboard. Sitting incorrectly at the piano can be dangerous and result in finger and hand damage. It's really important to have a good footrest. It's important to be at the right height. It's important to sit correctly. At minimum, parents must sit with their child and practice with them their full assignment. In Book 1, this takes 10 to 20 minutes. If it's taking significantly longer or significantly shorter, please let me know. There might be some issues. You should practice about 4 to 6 times per week. Students who are unable to practice alone but still try solidify bad habits. So just telling your 5-year-old or 6-year-old you need to practice piano and then leaving them does not work. It will end with them practicing incorrectly and having bad habits. Struggling and practicing alone is often worse than not practicing at all. It doesn't seem like it would be true, but it is, because they're practicing incorrectly with bad hand position, or they're playing the wrong song, or anything like that. It's really important that they practice with you and that you go through their sheet. You read the first thing, you do it. You read the next thing, you do it. You make sure that they're following the direction. If something says play it 2 times, you're doing it 2 times. If it says only to do it once, you're only doing it once. If it says to play it slow, you're playing it slow. And that you're going through the sheet, the whole sheet, not skipping anything, not skipping note finding, not skipping scale, not skipping sight reading. You're going through every single thing on the sheet. Students 12 and older, and that's an estimate. It's different for every kid. Some kids can practice alone at 11. Some kids can't practice alone until they're 15, 16. So even those kids still need regular attention and encouragement from a parent. A lot of times I see as soon as kids are able to successfully practice on their own, the parent suddenly never talks to them about piano again. And then they say to me 6 months later, why is my child no longer interested? Why is my child no longer engaged? And they don't see that connection of you stopped making piano, you stopped engaging about piano, you stopped talking to them about it, you stopped complimenting them, you stopped praising them. So please make sure when your child is old enough to successfully practice alone that you're still engaging with them. You're still saying, oh, that sounded so great. Even sitting in the same room so that you can remember to tell them, good job, or oh, wow, that sounded so quiet, or what were you working on then? Asking questions, making sure you know the names of the songs they're playing, making sure you know what's hard, what they're struggling with, what they're learning. Find ways to connect using the piano. For students studying piano seriously, this is like if your child is thinking about going to college for music, or they want to be able to compete, or they want to be able to play on a high level. Practicing with the parent 20 to 40 minutes a day, 6 to 7 days a week, and playing the CD 2 to 3 hours a day, as well as attending special events, like every single special event we offer. Making sure you participate, both within the studio and the community. As always, please text if you have any questions, anytime, even if they seem like really small questions, or you're not sure about something. I worded something weirdly in the term rules letter or in this video. Feel free to text anytime and ask. I would way rather clarify things than have people not feel like they're on the same page, or even just be wondering about something. I'm looking forward to having a really successful term. Again, if you have any questions about the pricing, I tried to do it as fairly as possible, even though it meant it was a little more complicated for me. But if that didn't totally make sense, please let me know. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really do think watching these videos help, even when you feel like you already know all of it. It's just important to hear it again. And honestly, it's important for me to say it. I'm realizing some things typo-wise that I might change in the term letter next time. But for this time, we're all set. Again, please let me know if you have any questions, and thanks again for watching this video.